if you'll recall, 21 mule droppings over here. The mess, D'Souza himself, is now fuck Dominion, fuck Smartmatic. I mean, they were only in half a county in LA or something like that. That's not. But the FBI knew that there was another company that was sending stuff to China. That's right. It's a company you haven't even heard about, largely because it doesn't matter. But this is what the FBI knew election software company Konek was storing in China. The FBI, they just don't care. It's fucking FBI, and they knew it. They fucking knew it.
I want to talk about some new developments involving the election software company called Konek.
Konek.
Now, Konek, which is K-O-N-N-E-C-H.
Mm-hmm. Yes. I don't care, but please do go on. Hold on one second. I got to fix my screen a little bit because this just looks like shit. Gotta do this thing, I think. There we go. And just shrink this thing down. This is just weird. Okay. Okay. So you were saying something about Konek
has provided election software services to a whole bunch of places in the United States.
Great. School boards, RuPaul's Drag Race.
In California to Alameda County,
Alameda County.
Costa County, in Colorado, Denver County, in Michigan, Detroit County, in Virginia, Detroit Fairfax County, in Missouri, St. Louis County, Travis County, Texas, Allegheny County, Pennsylvania. So this is a...
Yeah, this is a big... Texas. Once you said Texas, I was like, criminals.
Election software company with its tentacles in a number of parts of the U.S.
Yes, they once they get their tentacles in you...
Drop your shorts and bend over, Mr. Babar.
There's just no way out.
Like this, I'd probably feel 100%. Moon River. Whew. Thank you, Doc. You ever serve time?
And Konek evidently has been also
de-engineering,
collecting data on poll workers and election officials, a lot of data that involves their names, their addresses, their social security numbers, and so on. And this data, it was revealed several months ago by True the Vote, Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips, is stored on servers in China.
Okay, so the workers' information, their accounts are stored what? In the cloud, and one of the places they rent cloud space is in China? Ah, fuck it. They probably put it all on a thumb drive and hand it to some dude and he gets on an airplane.
Which means that it is available, or that the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party, has access to it. Now,
yeah, you mean like TikTok?
Think about the absurdity of this. Chinese officials have access to sensitive U.S. election data. Now, True the Vote blew the whistle on this, and there was a notable arrest of the CEO of Konek, a guy named Yu.
Wait a minute. He was arrested while Biden was president?
By the LA DA.
The LA DA did the he didn't send Bosch?
George Gascon.
Yes. Every last inch of him is covered in hair.
LA authorities seized a bunch of hard drives and digital evidence, and then mysteriously the case against Konek was dropped.
Dun, dun, dun.
In fact, at the same time, Konek filed a lawsuit against True the Vote. This lawsuit was before a judge, U.S. District Judge Kenneth Hoyt. He demanded that True the Vote turn over their Konek files, their Konek sources to him. And Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips said no.
Because they don't have those things.
They said, look, we can't tell you our sources because we have promised them confidentiality. We are obviously willing to share the data. In fact, we have been sharing the data with the FBI.
Hold on one second. Are we going to find out? Hold on. Okay. This is going to be good. Konek, LADA. Los Angeles is going to drop charge against CEO. This is November 10th. There you go. This is it. Here you go. LA County drops charges against election software executive, citing potential bias. In an abrupt reversal, LA County has dismissed charges against the chief executive of an election software company, marking the end of a case that prominent election deniers cited as evidence of foul play in American elections. Eugene Yu, a CEO of a Michigan-based firm, Konik, was charged in mid-October with illegally storing the personal information of poll workers on Chinese servers, a violation of its contract with LA County. Konik has provided its poll chief software to cities and counties across the country, including a $2.9 million contract with LA County. On Wednesday, the district attorney's office said that it had moved to dismiss the case. A judge in Los Angeles Superior Court granted the motion without prejudice. We are concerned about both the pace of the investigation and the potential bias in the presentation and investigation of the evidence. The spokesperson Tiffany Blacknell said in a statement, the county did not indicate that it hasn't ruled out refiling charges after reviewing the evidence, saying it would assemble a new team with significant cybersecurity experience to determine whether any criminal activity occurred. In a statement, Yu's defense attorney, Gary Linsenberg, called him an innocent man, adding, Mr. Yu's good name was tarnished by false narratives from fringe conspiracy theorists who bragged about enlisting Los Angeles prosecutors to further their political agenda. In October, the DA's office acknowledged to NPR that the investigation began after a tip from Greg Phillips, a prominent election denier associated with controversial group True the Vote, which executive produced and provided the basis of claims in the widely debunked 2000 Mules. Ouch. Shots fired, the mess. Phillips had said the group's interest in Konik was spurred in part by information provided by followers of the far-right conspiracy QAnon and suggested it was part of a red Chinese communist op run against the United States. Konik and Yu have consistently denied their charges, noting that True the Vote's shady affiliations and suggesting that xenophobia is a driving force behind the original probe. Yu immigrated from the U.S. from China in the 80s, became an American citizen in 97. In September, Konik filed a lawsuit. True the Vote did not immediately respond to requests for comment. They were too busy truing the vote. Yu's arrest and controversy surrounding Konik ahead of the November midterms alarmed the few voting offices across the country that use the company's software, worried how the arrest could impact voter confidence in a climate where election security is already top concern for many. At least 4 jurisdictions stopped using Konik's software. In a statement to NPR, member station WDET, Detroit City Clerk Janice Winfrey wrote that the city was terminated its contract with Konik out of an abundance of caution. District Attorney in LA gave no timeline for when they might make a decision about filing new criminal charges, saying only that they had an immense volume of digital data to process and that it could take months. So the idea is that they dropped it mysteriously when they can't convict or they don't have enough evidence or that there might be bias in who gave them the evidence is why they had to wait. So better to do that than find out it's true and you can't file charges again because of double jeopardy. But the mess doesn't care about that. The mess can't care about that. The mess is a big dum-dum.
But the judge goes, if you won't turn over the sources to me, I'm going to jail you. Wow.
Wow. And yet no.
And in fact, he did. Catherine and Greg were in jail for 10 days for the offense, I put that in quote marks, of not turning over their Konik source.
Let's see. Yeah, not in LA though. This was in Texas. 2 leaders of True the Vote jailed by federal judge for contempt of court. Catherine Engelbrecht and Greg Phillips were escorted away by marshals after refusing to disclose the name of a mystery man who supposedly helped them investigate election software company Konik, which is suing them for defamation. Federal marshals escorted them. They will remain in jail until they release the name of the man. It is a late surprise. Let's see. In podcast interviews, the involvement of a third man was unknown until the Thursday hearing when Konik's attorney pressed Phillips for additional information about what Phillips claimed was an hours-long Konik research session in Dallas that night. On the stand, Phillips revealed that another, quote, analyst was present in the room when Hassan allegedly offered evidence he'd uncovered about Konik, showing the company had stored American poll data on a server in China. Neither he nor Engelbrecht would release the third man's name, saying he was in danger from drug cartels. drug cartels. All right. While True the Vote's former attorney on the drug cartels, Brock Akers, released Hassan's name after the U.S. District Judge Hoyt demanded he do so earlier in the month. True the Vote's new legal team has chosen a different path. Akers has not appeared in court since he provided Hassan's name. Last week, Engelbrecht and Phillips were represented by Michael Wynn, who told the court Akers was on vacation, quote, on the Mediterranean, would be withdrawing from the case. Wynn said Akers remained away on a cruise on Monday morning. Phillips, so their attorney fucked off and was like, I'm not coming back. Briefly held on to, let's see, he was arrested at his home in Michigan on October 4th before facing charges in LA County, where he was briefly held on house arrest. He's now posted bond and returned to Michigan with an ankle monitor. He's facing felony charges of grand theft by embezzlement and conspiracy to commit a crime. They dropped those. I can't. And then they go, Los Angeles prosecutors have acknowledged receiving an early tip from Phillips. I can't reveal his name. Engelbrecht told Vote Beat in the gallery Monday before the hearing began, acknowledging that would mean time in jail. Information was too large, number of terabytes for him to physically have taken possession. He does not have, I do not know, whatever. I don't know that. Wynn entered more than 24 pages of evidence on the record late Friday, including dozens of text messages with Engelbrecht and the individuals True the Vote has claimed are FBI agents. They also include 2 affidavits from Phillips and Engelbrecht and details of Yu's arrest in Los Angeles. Blah, blah, blah. Hoyt, a Ronald Reagan nominee, was unmoved by the submission, calling it irrelevant, giving its failure to identify the man at the center of Thursday's hearing. And then somebody else gave his name.
And then the appellate court ordered them released. Now, interestingly,
because the name was already given,
Catherine and Greg decided to put this conic information that they had on the web, and they did. They put it up on a site called open.inc, I'm sorry, and
yes, I'm sorry.
The very next day, Connick dropped all charges against Greg and Catherine. It's almost like Connick realized, oh, they've got the goods on us. This suit is going to go nowhere. We're accusing them of something, and they can prove that they collected legitimate information through legitimate sources, and we don't want this to be going to court because all of this is going to come.
By the way, this is about apparently Connick storing volunteer information for the workers themselves, not voting machines, not access to voting, not anything that would change the vote, unless there's an idea that they have these people's information and they blackmailed them all into doing stuff that the Chinese government wants, which maybe that's later in the video.
Out in open court, there's going to be media coverage, so Connick basically decided, let's turn tail and take off, and that is in fact what they did. But the new development is this. And it turns out that Catherine and Greg were working with local offices of the FBI in Texas and a couple of other places. And the FBI was very interested. They were cooperating with Catherine and Greg. Catherine and Greg have in fact released emails with a number of FBI agents where they're asking for more information. They're following up on leads. And then guess what? The FBI case was turned over, or maybe it was pulled in by the Washington, D.C. headquarters of the FBI. And this is where everything...
It would be a federal case, I'm just saying. You would actually want it to go up the chain if it was real. You don't want it to go up the chain if it's ass.
Changed. We know that the Washington office of the FBI, by the way, is thoroughly corrupt.
Not according to Marjorie Taylor Greene and James Comer and Jim Jordan as of today.
This is the same office that has been doing one-sided investigations of Trump, yes, but letting Biden off the hook and covering up.
Well, look, Christopher Wray, I mean, I think fish stinks from the head. I don't know who hired that fucker, but Jesus.
Up for Biden. So it seems like what happened is that once the corrupt people at the top of the FBI got a hold of this case, they spun it around. And suddenly FBI agents were calling Catherine and Greg saying, we think you broke the law. How did you get this information? So initially, they were using the information to try to track down what Connick was up to.
And then they realized they weren't really up to anything, or if anything was an issue, it was going to be worked out in other courts. But that also means that perhaps a hacking was involved. And the problem with a hack and using the information and using that to get the FBI to take on any kind of an investigation about something is that you very well may have placed that information there, fucking up the other case and incriminating somebody because that's your goal.
And then they turned the whole thing upside down and began to examine, or you can say investigate, Catherine and Greg as if they were in fact the true malefactors and the true lawbreakers.
Well, they do hang out with a felon. I'm just saying. I'm not saying guilt by association, but I'm not.
What we can conclude from all this is that the FBI, and this is Washington, D.C., knew about Connick. They knew about Connick's ties to the Chinese officials and the Chinese Communist Party. They dropped the investigation into Connick. They tried to go after Catherine and Greg. And so this just shows you the extreme lawlessness.
Are they still?
At the top of America's top investigative agency. This ultimately, the most lawless guys around may not even be, certainly are not Catherine and Greg, and may not even be Connick. It's actually the Federal Bureau of Investigation.
That's where he ends it. That's investigation.
I want to talk.
Yeah. So all right. Now, you're not, I understand where you're like, Connick, who gives a fuck? Exactly. Because it wouldn't change the vote. It wouldn't be anywhere near the 2,000 Mules idea. It has nothing to do with ballot stuffing, any of that kind of shit.